Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into really one of the most exciting success stories we've seen recently in video games.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
We're talking about how a re-release can, not just meet expectations, but kind of blow them out of the water, redefine what a definitive version looks like.
Exactly.
And our focus for you today, Granblue Fantasy versus Rising.
Right. And our mission for you, the listener, is to really unpack what makes this fighting game so special. Like, why is this the definitive version? We'll explore how it manages that tricky balance, appealing to, the hardcore fighting game vets and the total newcomers.
Which is not easy to do.
Not at all.
And to figure that out, we've basically sifted through a whole pile of comprehensive reviews, deep breakdowns, really boiling it down to the critical points.
You're getting the essence.
You're getting the core of why this game is making such huge waves right now.
So let's jump in then.
Yeah, let's get right to it. The main takeaway, like the headline from everything we looked at, Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising takes what was already good in the original.
Which was pretty good.
Right, already solid, and just supercharges it. And it seems designed to be welcoming, like for everyone.
Yeah, it really does.
But okay, from your dive, what does that supercharging actually mean? Why is it such a big deal?
Well, what's really fascinating is how the specific tweaks and additions just elevate the whole package. It turns it into what some are calling one of the most welcoming and satisfying 2.5D fighters today.
Okay, 2.5D, that's the 3D models on a 2D plane, right? Gives it that depth.
Exactly. Beautiful look, classic fighting game feel. And yeah, these improvements, they aren't just polished, they really refine that solid base into something, well, exceptional.
Okay, it sounds like way more than just a patch or a simple update then.
Oh, definitely.
Beyond just tweaking the original, I hear Rising brings some genuinely new stuff to the table, things that really changed the game. What stood out first in the reviews you saw?
Absolutely. Well, first off, every fighting game player cares about the roster. Rising bumps it up significantly.
Right. Who'd they add?
We're seeing fan favorites finally jump in, like Siegfried, Anila, Grimnir, in the year.
Nice.
So the total roster now is over 30 characters, and they're planning even more with DLC. So right out of the gate, you've got a ton of choice.
That's a healthy lineup. And I also heard about a new system, Ultimate Skills. What's that about? How does it actually change things up in a match?
Okay, yeah, the Ultimate Skills. This is a really fresh mechanic, adds another layer of strategy. You can basically think of them like EX moves.
Right, the powered up special.
Exactly, usually cost some meter. But here, they come with this really cool cinematic flair and unique tactical uses. More damage sometimes, maybe extending combos or just providing some special utility.
To more than just raw power.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They create these really intense clutch moments almost every match. Things that can totally swing the momentum. It adds a lot of spice.
Okay, ultimate skills sound cool for those hype moments. But, for fighting game fans wanting to actually play online consistently, there's one huge addition. The one everyone was asking for.
Oh, yeah.
Rollback Netcode is finally here. How big of a difference does that make? Like, really?
Foundational, honestly. If you look at the bigger picture, getting Rollback Netcode in there, plus adding crossplay, between PS5, PS4, and PC.
That's huge, too.
It's absolutely crucial. It is the thing that lets a competitive fighter really thrive online today. It's why the sources say the game could finally take off online in a way the original just couldn't quite manage.
Because the connections are just smoother, less lag.
Way smoother. Responsive matches. Even if you're playing someone far away, it makes online play actually viable and, fun for competitive players. You can almost hear the collective sigh of relief from the community.
I bet. Okay, so the serious online play is sorted. But what about when you just want to chill? I heard they added something completely different. Bruise Legends. Sounds like Fall Guys?
Yeah, it kind of does. And the critics seem genuinely surprised by it.
Really? Is it actually good?
Apparently so. It's got these mini games like obstacle courses, survival challenges, but using the Granblue characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are calling it weirdly addictive and surprisingly polished.
Oh, so not just a throwaway mode.
Not at all. The insight there, I think, is that adding these genuinely fun, accessible sort of social modes, it broadens the appeal beyond just the hardcore fighting, keeps people engaged, builds community. We saw reports of players logging in just to mess around with friends in Granblues.
That's actually pretty smart. And visually, any upgrades there? Arc System Works games usually look amazing anyway.
They do, and this is no exception. They've definitely taken their trademark anime style up a notch. more effects, cleaner character outlines, high frame rate cinematics during moves. It looks incredibly crisp and impactful, a real visual treat.
Okay, so we've got an expanded roster, new ultimate skills, crucial netcode, a fun party mode, visual upgrades. How does all this actually feel moment to moment when you're playing? Does it manage that balance? Easy for newcomers, deep for pros?
Yeah, that seems to be one of its biggest strengths. For beginners, super approachable. Like, you can pull off every special move with simple one-button shortcuts.
Ah, okay, so you can jump in and do cool stuff right away.
Exactly, you don't feel lost. But, and this is the clever part, the advanced players, they still have everything they want. Full manual inputs, complex combos, juggles, air techs, all that deep stuff is still there.
So the shortcuts don't replace the traditional inputs?
Nope, they coexist. Plus, they've apparently added a bunch of new training tools, better tutorials specifically to help players level up, learn matchups, practice execution. It really does seem to cater to both ends.
And the actual combat flow, I heard it's less about like flying all over the screen, maybe more grounded, deliberate.
That's right. Unlike some anime siders that can get really wild in the air, this one has more focus on grounded combat, spacing, reading your opponent, timing. Those things really shine.
So like traditional footsies.
Precisely. Footsies matter a lot here. And whiff punishes, punishing an opponent when they miss an attack they feel really earned. That deliberate pace, that emphasis on ground control and smart decisions, that's a big part of why it clicks with those traditional fighting game fans. Less chaos, more strategy.
Makes sense. But what if you're not into the competitive side? Or even the party mode? Is there enough for like a solo player?
Oh, definitely. Massive single-player content, actually. The story mode's been expanded quite a bit. Full anime cutscenes, different character paths to follow, even some light RPG progression elements mixed in.
Okay.
And beyond the main story, there are tons of missions, side quests, ways to unlock cosmetics, music tracks, bits of lore. So yeah, if you just want a solo fighting game experience, there's a lot to chew on here. You're definitely covered.
All right, so it sounds like a really comprehensive package with all these changes, the netcode, the new modes. What's the word on the street? What are actual players saying? And the critics?
The vibe is overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Genuinely. We pulled some quotes directly from player feedback.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Things like, "This is how you do a re-release right, Rollback. Crossplay, new mechanics, and fun extras. Take my money." Real enthusiasm there.
I can imagine.
Another one, "Ultimate skills are a game changer. I feel like every match has multiple clutch moments now. And people really seem to dig the extra modes too. Heard this a few times. Bruise Legends is way better than I expected. I log in just to mess around in it with friends."
Wow. Okay. That's strong player feedback. Does that line up with what the professional critics found? Any major disagreements or different takes in the reviews?
By and large, no. The critical reception really mirrors that player excitement. Game Informer, they gave it a 9 out of 10, called it a must-play fighter that balances accessibility with depth. Yeah. Rising is one of the most complete packages of any anime fighter. Pretty high praise.
A 9 is serious.
Yeah. IGN went with an 8.5 out of 10, saying, "Whether you're here for serious player silly party games, Granblue Fantasy Versus, Rising delivers more value than expected." And specialist sites like Event Hubs, they really honed in on the technical side, noting, "Rollback netcode has made a massive difference. We're seeing GBVS finally take off online."
So consistent praise across the board then? No major caveats?
Honestly, not really. I mean, you always find minor nitpicks in any review, right? Maybe someone didn't love a specific character balance or a small UI choice, but nothing systemic, nothing that really detracted from the overall picture of this being a hugely successful, well-polished re-release. It just seems like they nailed it.
Good to know. So for anyone listening who's now intrigued, where can they actually get this game?
Right, practical stuff. Granblue Fantasy Versus, Rising is out on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC through Steam.
And just to hammer it home, full crossplay and rollback netcode across all of those platforms.
Absolutely. Play anyone, anywhere, smoothly. That's the promise.
Okay, and pricing, what's the damage?
The standard edition is going for $49.99 USD, and then there's a deluxe edition for $74.99, which throws in the first season pass for DLC characters and some extra cosmetic goodies.
Got it. $49.99 standard, $74.99 deluxe.
Yep.
So wrapping this all up, the consensus from our sources really lands solidly on a 9 out of 10, Granblue Fantasy Versus. Rising feels like the truly definitive version. Polish the strength, fixed the big online issue with Netcode.
Finally.
And added enough new stuff like Granblues and Ultimate Skills to make it feel fresh and fun for pretty much everyone, from casuals to pros.
Yeah, the bottom line really is, if you enjoy stylish fighting games, especially ones with that grounded feel and great anime visuals, this one's pretty much a must-own now. It's just a stellar example of how to revisit and elevate an already good game.
A real benchmark, maybe.
Well, and that kind of leads to a final thought, doesn't it? Something for you, the listener, to mull over.
Hey.
In this whole era of constant updates, patches, re-releases, does Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising set a new standard? Like, is this how developers should treat their existing games to make them truly definitive? And what does that imply for how we think about our favorite games going forward? Does every game deserve this kind of rising treatment eventually?
That's a really interesting question to chew on. Does this raise the bar for everyone else? Lots to think about there.